Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Drop Dead Serious. I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and I have such a treat for you today. And I'm actually not sure if it's more of a treat for you or more of a treat for me, because for a billion zillion years, I have known Harvey Levin, the founder of TMZ. Hey, go way back. He's the founder of the People's Court. Harvey and I have had a very, very long relationship, and I have always looked to Harvey as the model of how to create media business. Whether you watch TMZ or whether you were into courtroom shows on daytime TV, Harvey started them all. And he's also just a really astute guy. Nothing gets past Harvey. And one of the stories that he is really invested in is Sean Combs' trial. So I had an opportunity to sit down with Harvey for a very in-depth conversation, not only about the trial, but the players, because let's face it, everybody knows TMZ and TMZ knows everybody. They also tend to know everything. So with such an inside track on so many of the issues that are going to be coming through that Diddy courtroom, I could not wait for this conversation. So here we are with Harvey Levin. Harvey, the Diddy jury, they hit the magic number, 45? They've got 45 people that they can choose from and start, using peremptory strikes. But the complaint that I'm hearing from insiders in the courtroom is that the 45 don't look like Diddy. They don't look like they're into hip hop. They don't reflect Black culture. Do you think this is a problem?
Well, there are Black potential jurors there, and I don't know what look like means these days. There are, hip hop crosses all boundary lines. So, I got to tell you, I was really struck today. We got video of the judge coming into court, and I had not seen this judge before. Had you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Well, I watched this guy come in, and he's wearing Nikes. He has headphones, and he has a backpack.
I know. I thought he looked like he was like a college kid. I thought
he was an NYU kid that was going to see the trial. And then I find out this is the trial judge. And the fact is, look, he's 45 years old. He probably grew up listening to hip hop. So, this notion that hip hop is one small group of people, to me, is ridiculous.
Well, and, Harvey, there's a whole anthology of Diddy, right? Like, there's the Sean John, there's the J-Lo era, there's the Ciroc Vodka era, there's the music all the way through. So if you're my age, and your age, we remember a lot about the early days of Diddy, right? The J-Lo days. And if you're, in your 20s, you've got the Ciroc Vodka and the newest part of Diddy. So there's just a lot of people who know him in his different eras, to quote Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because the era I think he doesn't want people remembering is the J-Lo era, because everybody who remembers the J-Lo era remembers the shooting outside the nightclub and the fact that he went on trial. He was found not guilty, but that's something he probably wants people to forget. So, the eras probably make something of a difference. But again, look, I just don't think this is all going to make any difference in the case. Look, think about O.J. Simpson. Ultimately, did it matter that he was a football player? Did it matter he was a naked gun? Ultimately, people became absorbed with the evidence, with the trial, with the testimony. So I know we're talking about Diddy, as a brand, as a person, as a music artist and all, and producer. I don't think any of it's going to matter, because right now what we're not talking about is what everybody's going to be talking about, which is the testimony, because it hasn't happened yet. But once that starts, nobody's going to be talking about this.
Yeah.
So I think really it's irrelevant.
I was thinking about that too. Like I have always said, if you can find a jury for OJ, you can find a jury for anyone, right? But then I've started to really dig into a lot more about the dynamics around OJ's jury decision and the admissions from some of the jurors that it was payback for Rodney King, and that was a whole other era.
They never said that.
One of them
during
did, not during the case. No, it took 20 years.
Actually, I covered that case. It was absolutely payback for Rodney King. There is no doubt in the world. I covered the Rodney King case. I covered the O.J. Simpson case. It was absolute payback for Rodney King, and the fact that the LAPD had been really shitty to the South Central Los Angeles. They didn't admit that, during voir dire.
They do now.
Well, they do now, but they didn't then. And that's the trick to jury selection.
Here's the dynamic, right? Like that was like if we look at OJ as, hey, look, OJ got tons of coverage and still an acquittal. I think it was a different thing because the whole Rodney King preface to it changed the zeitgeist. I don't know if Diddy's got that kind of a leg up.
Well, I'm not sure how it all cut. That, you don't have payback in this case. You don't have that.
Yeah.
And that was huge in O.J. Simpson. So, he doesn't have that going for him. It is interesting that Agnifilo, we did a documentary on Diddy months ago, and Agnifilo was on it. And he said to me flat out that this case was an attempted takedown of a successful black man. And what he said was they couldn't get him on business and they couldn't get him on taxes. So they went into his bedroom and that was kind of the pitch that he was making on the show. And I thought that was really interesting. Everything I'm hearing is that they are going to do everything they can to bring race into this. And it's going to be part of it. It is going to be part of it. But how much race becomes a factor, I think is going to be huge. Ashleigh, I'm telling you, race is going to be a huge part of this case.
Let me just get us into the Trump era then for a whole second, because that may have been okay 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, but there's been this pendulum that's come flying back into DEI and race issues, and maybe some people on the jury are going to think, don't start bringing in race. I mean, that's a possibility.
It is a possibility, but your assumption is that the jury box is going to be filled with MAGA. And I don't know that that's the case, and I doubt it's the case.
But look
it's
at New York
City.
I mean, New York voted a lot for Trump's principles. Love him or hate him, but
here's the thing about it. In a way, it favors Diddy because if this jury is really diverse, and if you have MAGA supporters there and you have Democrats there, and you're going to probably have both, if you have black people and white people and Asian people and men and women, to me, it's almost, what Rashomon is, that you can take something and look at the exact same thing. And depending on the people who are viewing it, they might view it in totally different ways. The more diverse the jury, to me, the more of a chance of a hung jury. And a hung jury benefits Diddy in a huge way, because if it's a hung jury, then the defense will have seen the whole prosecution case. And nothing will be a surprise the second time around. So
like Karen Reed all over again, right?
Totally,
yeah,
totally. And it's a win for the defense to have a hung jury because now they know everything. And so the more diverse the jury, the more of a chance as far as I'm concerned.
So speaking of leg up, as we were just sort of go back to the OJ thing where OJ had the leg up because he came into that trial with the Rodney King verdict and angry people all across, many angry black people across LA.
You do know that the thing the DA did that is just still makes me, I'm aghast at what he did, that if they wanted to get a conviction, they should have kept the case where it belonged, which was Santa Monica. Yeah. They would have had a white jury, and it would have been totally different. For whatever reason, I hear that the reason the DA wanted it downtown is the DA wanted to be near the prosecutors to help manage the case. But bringing it downtown changed the jury pool. They ended up having 11 African-American jurors with a backdrop of Rodney King. Yep. And that made all the difference.
I wish I'd been sitting beside you, young lawyer Harvey Levin in the OJ courtroom. Could you imagine the martini lunches we'd have had?
Say young again, please. Oh, God.
Look at you. We can't even start getting into like makeup and hair tips because you look great. I don't know, whatever it is. Whatever you're drinking, people should be drinking. But let me get back to the pendulum that I want to talk about because with OJ coming in with his leg up of Rodney King, I'm almost wondering if Diddy comes in with a leg up of the Me Too movement and the pendulum swinging back to sort of crush Me Too, like Amber Heard and Blake Lively. Is Diddy going to get this same kind of lift where people are like, okay, enough with the Me Too, enough with the I'm an abuse victim. We've heard too much, but we heard too much in it. Cosby, we heard too much. Is that going to be a benefit for him?
I mean, it's going to depend on who the jurors are, but I agree with you that if this case were being tried in 2017 or 2018, it would be a steep hill for him to climb there because of that. And I do think the pendulum's shifted and swung back. But I don't know who these jurors are. It's interesting because some of the jurors had domestic violence in their family,
Lots
and
of them.
I know. I was really surprised at that, and they got through. So there are still preemptory challenges, but I found that really interesting that as many had as there are had this domestic violence history.
Yeah.
And they weren't booted for cause.
Doesn't that tell you something, though? I talked to Lisa Bloom about that yesterday. She said she was heartbroken just watching one after the other in this jury pool being asked, oh, yeah, I got domestic violence in my past. And that it became so, it was almost like an answer by rote. And, through they went because you can't kick them all out.
Right. I think that's right. But he's lucky it's not being tried in 2017 or 18.
Yeah, I think this is a big part of it, right? Like, I wonder when that pendulum's going to come back to the middle a little bit, post Blake Lively, post Amber Heard, et cetera, or if it will. I don't know. But it's
but I will say, and I kind of want to go back to this, is that when the trial starts, so much gets reset.
Yeah.
That all of these things we're talking about now are really interesting, and they are a backdrop and part of a mosaic. But when this trial starts, it's going to be at least 8 weeks. At least. I think it's going to be 3 months. But they're saying 8 weeks. You just get absorbed in the testimony. You are, it's almost a game where you're trying, is she telling the truth? Is he telling the truth? What about that inconsistency? What about this? And they just start to pick things apart, and little things become big things. And, that's what they're going to be focusing on. And it's not so much that I'm saying, I have all this faith in the jury system that they really listen to the evidence, but they do listen to the evidence. And, for the most part, and they try, and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong, but they're going to be absorbed. Look, Lisa, Ashleigh,
I wish I had Lisa Bloom's mind. Are you kidding? I wish.
No, Ashleigh. This is a soap opera.
Yeah.
I mean, O.J. Simpson was a soap opera. Think about this. This has great-looking people. It has sex. It has violence.
Money.
It has betrayal. It has money. It has all the elements of a soap opera. So this isn't like somebody filing a slip and fall insurance claim where the jurors' eyes are just glazed over.
Right.
I mean, this is riveting
by the way,
testimony.
Good point, because a lot of the court watchers are saying right now, I can't believe how many of these jurors sound like they want to be on the jury. Most try to say, I can't be fair and biased, so let me go.
Right.
These people are all saying, sure, I'm in, count me in.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is this is going to be a riveting, interesting trial with high stakes.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, this is not going to be an issue where people are thinking too much. Look, they may be colored by the Me Too movement one way or the other and whatnot. So everybody goes in with a perspective. But the testimony is going to be center stage here. It just is.
And I think, you tell me, you're in LA, that PR teams right now are like a hamster on a wheel, freaking out that they've got one of their clients on that list of 100 plus celebrities who are going to be brought into this trial one way or the other.
I don't know that they are.
Really?
There are no celebrity sex tapes that are going to be.
Now, I heard you say that. Why do you think that?
Because I know it.
Come on.
I just know it. I mean, look, we are really connected here. I mean, we have a lot of sources. There will be no celebrity sex tapes and no minors. And in a way, I got to say, it benefits the defense.
Look, before you go there, I agree with you on the minors. Otherwise, we'd have a charge.
No celebrity sex tapes.
No, I agree with you on the minors because we'd have a charge that would
I know, but I'm telling you, no celebrity sex tapes in this case.
How?
None.
That's the whole story that's been, percolating.
I know, and that's why it benefits the defense. You are way too young to remember this song. You are way too young. But there was a song. Do you know who Peggy Lee was?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, do you remember a big song she sang, big hit? It was way back. I was
Which
a little
one?
kid.
She had a couple.
I know. Not Fever. You remember another
yeah.
one? There was a song called Is That All There Is? And
I don't remember that
it was a big song.
Can you sing it?
So
Can you hum a few bars?
I'm not getting Is that all there is? Is that all there is? And
No, I'm not getting it.
And the idea here is that because the media has spent so much time talking about celebrity sex tapes.
It's oversold.
Because in all these civil cases, they've talked about minors and celebrity sex tapes. And people haven't distinguished between civil and criminal. So everybody's thinking, we're going to hear about these celebrity sex tapes and all these parties, and we're going to hear about all these minors. Mm-hmm. Well, neither are going to come up in the case. And if these jurors have in their heads that we're going to hear about all this stuff, and they don't, that's where the Peggy Lee song comes in.
Is that all there is?
And they're thinking, I thought this was going to be bigger. And that's why I'm saying, in a way, it's funny because, if a prospective juror said, yeah, I believe there are minors in this case, it seems, the automatic reaction by the defense would be boot him. But I think they should keep him because I think it actually helps them. And the reverse with the prosecutors. So I don't know, but I can tell you, no celebrity sex tapes, no minors.
Well, definitely no minors. Otherwise, we'd see a charge involving minors.
Right.
So I 100% agree with you there. They're not going to show minors on a video and then not have a charge for it, even if it's an unidentified minor. But I still am curious because there's a lot of action. Whether it's illegal or legal is a different story. Because here's why. All the sexy questions in voir dire. Tell me if you've heard of this before, Harvey, because I have never seen this happen where a judge says to jurors who are being, prospective jurors who are being voir dired, look, if you're too embarrassed to answer our questions in front of the open court, just come on up to the bench and you can whisper them to me as long as both lawyers are there. And one woman said, I am such a prude that I might faint with sexy, kinky testimony. I've never heard of anything like that.
Well, that's because it's really necessary to raise that in this case. Because, look, you're going to hear things that are raunchy and even violent. And you're going to hear things that are, outside the lanes of most people. And they've got to be able to process it, not be judgmental about it, and evaluate it. And not everybody can do that. There may be people who are so shocked by it that it's sort of like automatically he's guilty.
Yeah, they question his moral turpitude, right?
Right. Because their defense is he's not a criminal, he's a swinger.
Right.
So the predicate here is we're going to tell you about his swinger lifestyle.
But Harvey, why are you so convinced that he doesn't swing with celebrities?
Look, what the freak-offs are three people. They are Diddy, a girlfriend, and an alleged sex worker. Those are the freak-offs. Those are the things that they're going to get into.
Allegedly,
here.
Right?
Well, no, there were freak-offs. Nobody's denying
So we're just saying
freak-offs.
whether they were illegal behavior in the freak-offs.
We're saying were the freak-offs, did they involve fraud, coercion,
enterprise,
or physical violence, or drugging somebody against their will, and then there's another charge, and this is the one I think that's the most problematic for Diddy, which is just the interstate transportation, of a sex worker, because
is that the Mann Act?
Is
that the Mann Act?
Yeah, and he's going to have. I think he could have a real problem with that because it doesn't involve really force or coercion or anything. There's an argument there. But I think, we did a mock jury for one of our Yeah, and they found him guilty on that charge. They were hung on the other two. So look, and I'm not saying that's the way this case is going to go because they didn't hear the actual testimony.
You also had
but I found it interesting.
I saw your panel. It was extremely diverse, which may not be the case in Lower Manhattan.
Well, we'll see. I mean, right now it could be diverse, right? I mean, it could be because there's enough diversity now in the panel, in the 45 people.
Yeah, kind of. A lot of people, what I'm hearing from our producers, a lot of people from like Westchester, a lot of suburbanites, a lot of whites from up in the greenery.
That's the jury pool.
Yeah.
But I'm talking blacks, whites, Asians, Latinos, men, women,
speaking of that,
old, young.
Speaking of that, everybody should know that when you get your peremptory challenges as a lawyer, you don't have to say why you're kicking someone off a jury, but you're still in your head not allowed to use race or religion or those kinds of protected classes as a reason.
Right.
And I don't know, I mean, unless you write in some kind of, Gaelic code, I don't know how they could ever imagine for a moment what's in a lawyer's head as a reason for kicking someone off a jury. But what do you think as these attorneys on both sides start to exercise their peremptories? What do you think is first and foremost in their mind?
I think it's different depending on prosecutors and defense. This is the tricky thing. For the defense, what I think they're looking for are people that they really believe can change their mind based on evidence. And the one thing I didn't hear that I thought I would hear, and this really has to do with the fact that the judge is the one who did the voir dire and not the lawyers, is you can't just say to somebody, even though you may have an opinion, could you change your mind? Because everybody's going to say yes, right? Everybody's going to say yes. The way to ask that question is to say, is there anything you can think of in your life that was really important, something that you really believed, and somebody convinced you to change your mind? Give me an example. If they can give you an example of something like that where they really did it, that's the kind of person the defense wants. Because the reality, which is that most people think Diddy's guilty as hell. And some people go beyond that and say he's a monster. So they've got to disabuse jurors of their preconceived notions of this case.
Can I just comment on the triple word score? Disabuse. Good for you. That is impressive, my friend. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Well, one day we'll play Scrabble. And by the way, I think the CW's got a big Scrabble game coming out. Craig Ferguson's going to host it. Yeah, he's going to host Scrabble on the CW.
Who?
Craig Ferguson.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm here for you. There you go. There's
I love
a scoop.
that game.
Let me ask you something about Diddy's appearance in court. It drives me absolutely batshit crazy that federal court is still so antiquated that we have to have sketch artists from the 1800s.
I know.
Don't even get me started. It's so silly. But the sketch artists have been good enough to show us that Diddy's sporting like a fade that is all gray and a gray goatee. And then here's the crazy detail. Today's day 3, and he is wearing the same outfit for the 3rd day in a row. And it's very Luigi Mangione, right? But why would you think for a minute that he'd wear the same clothes? I get the outfit, I get the look, but the same clothes 3 days in a row.
I think they don't want to make a big deal. Look, listen, I think that fashion is a big deal in court. It is a big deal in court.
Just ask Anna, Delvey.
How about Eric and Lyle Menendez in the first trial? Putting sweaters on them. Which I found, right, and just pastels every day because you just can't superimpose what you're looking at with what they did. And so I kind of think this was an interesting move. But I thought they were going to put him in a suit. But putting him in the same sweater, I think what it does is it just, people get used to it and they're not judging him. I mean, if they started doing pastel sweaters every day or different color sweaters every day, all of a sudden they start thinking, are they trying to manipulate me? In a way, less is more. And so you don't make it like this guy's living the life right now or what's this guy trying to pull over on me? I think that kind of makes sense. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. I just think it's so weird.
Can I tell you?
Billionaire wearing the same outfit 3 days in a row. That brother has never shown up at a public event wearing the same thing twice.
He's never, absolutely true. You know what? Here's the thing that I am like, I'm just fascinated by. When I covered O.J. Simpson, there was no such thing as social media.
Right.
And as crazy as that case was, as riveting as it was for the American public, I think there is nothing like something. Well, I mean, the difference is it was televised, so everybody could see it in living color. And here you can't. So OJ is just bigger because of that.
Right.
But in terms of this jury not hearing anything in the media or on social for 8 or 9 or 10 weeks, to me is ridiculous. That even the first day, the jury was admonished, don't read anything about the case. And a lawyer comes in the next day and says, yeah, well, I was on the train and I was looking at my phone and I saw something about, I know. And so how are they going to, and they're not sequestering them. Yeah. So how are they going to sanitize this jury? I just don't see it's possible.
Well, how about their social media to date? Because isn't that something that attorneys, both prosecutors and defense attorneys, they will scour the hell out of these prospective jurors and see what their social media has told about them?
No, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
is the after effect.
No. Once the testimony starts, the jury has to process it. And they've got to figure out in their own heads, how do I feel about that witness and that witness and that witness? And if they start looking at social media and they start hearing everybody felt this way, it's going to push them that way. It's just gonna. That's human nature. It's like, what am I missing? If everybody else is saying X, even though they weren't in court and you were, it's like everybody feels this way. And that's going to be the trick, is how do you keep a jury, objective in the sense that they're processing the information on their own when they're hearing how everybody else feels. Think about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. That if that were a case like this, I mean, everybody saw TikTok, everybody saw what was going on. And, sometimes you could love or hate Amber Heard or Johnny Depp based on what you saw on TikTok.
Yeah.
Well, why is that not going to happen here?
And how can you ask these people to ignore their feeds? Because honestly, if you just open your Instagram, you don't know what the first thing that comes up is.
I know. And once it's there, do you close it? It's sort of like driving past an ambulance.
Do you report?
Do you really close it?
Do you really close it?
Do you really close it?
And by the way, I just watched a bail hearing. Yes, this is what I do at 3 o'clock in the morning. I watch bail hearings of a guy who was accused of kidnapping or attempting to kidnap a 2-year-old off the lap of a mom in a Walmart with like people all around. And I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. This guy was not a kidnapper. But the judge from the bench said, I'm going to have to tell counsel that I, on my way here, opened up my social media and I saw this case. So I just want to let you know I closed it down and I didn't read it, but I'm trying my best to not read up on, not watch the local news. This is the judge telling the courtroom.
In the Charles Manson case, there was a moment.
But wait. You are not old enough to have covered that case.
I didn't cover it, but I was certainly conscious of it.
Me too. I was as well.
And in the Charles Manson case, in the middle of the trial, there was almost a mistrial, and it was because they used to have, I don't even know what they call them anymore. When you buy a newspaper and those what do they call when you put a quarter in and you pull it out and you get the newspaper.
Oh, newspaper stand.
A newspaper. Yeah. I guess it's a stand.
You walk by them on the sidewalk.
Right, and there was a newspaper stand outside of the criminal courts house in downtown Los Angeles where the trial was, and they had one newspaper that would face the window, and it said, "Manson guilty, Nixon declares," and they almost declared a mistrial because the jury walked past it and saw it, and it was a huge deal in that case. They almost declared a mistrial. That's amazing,
because if you think about it, did those jurors in the Manson case or any of the subsequent family members' cases, did they have to stop their subscription from landing on their front doorstep because they would have seen it?
They were sequestered.
Oh, so they didn't get it. And they used to cut I remember with newspapers, they used to cut the articles.
The articles
and then
out.
give the rest of the newspaper to sequester jururs.
But they saw this headline, and that alone almost declared a mistrial. So think about this. Ashleigh, you are going to hear during this trial It's going to stop at some point, and there's going to be a motion by one side or the other to boot a juror because they saw something or they talked about something or they told another juror something or a bailiff overheard them saying something. And that's why they got 6 alternates.
But Harvey, haven't you seen a trend since the influx and the rise of social media? Haven't you seen a trend whereby this happens all the time, and then there's a quick question answer with the judge and the juror, in which the judge says, "Tell me what you saw," and the juror tells the judge what they saw, and the judge then says, "Can you be fair and impartial, and can you put that out of your mind?" And the juror says yes, and that feels like it's curative. Like they're not even really considering it to be so critical that they saw something. It's how they felt about what they saw and if they can be honest and continue.
I've seen that, but I've also seen it the other way, because what also happens is the judge doesn't want to find out whether they can still be fair. What the judge wants to find out is, why the hell did you do what I told you not to do?
Well, yeah, sometimes it's innocent, right? Like somebody was talking to me at the table next to me in the restaurant.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a juror who says, "Did you see News Nation last night when somebody on Ashleigh's show said," and the bailiff overhears it.
Yeah.
And then the judge is not just going to say, "Can you be impartial?" The judge is, "No offense, Ashleigh, why did you watch Ashleigh's piece last night?
Right.
Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
And I told you not to. And if the judge feels the guy or the woman is shady, they're going to boot him. And I've seen it happen. And I'm telling you, the jury of 12 you're going to see is not going to be the exact same jury.
I agree.
At the end of this trial.
What did we see just recently? Gosh, I can't even remember. It might have been Karen Reed, but we got off to day 1, and a juror was. You know what? It was Lori Vallow. That was it. It was Lori Vallow down in New Mexico. Day 1. Juror was booted. I think on day 2 or day 3, another one was booted. I mean, it was happening like rapid fire. I started to get worried that they got to start picking another alternate panel of 12.
Look, and in that case, won't hold a candle to the coverage Diddy gets.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And the other thing about the coverage Diddy gets is that at least when it's televised, everybody's showing the video of the witness on the stand or whatever. Here, there's none of that. So everybody is going to be interpreting, making things up.
That's right.
That's what happens in social media. It actually happens in the media,
This is
too.
why I'm so against keeping cameras out of the courtroom,
Oh,
because
I agree
you
with
just
you.
fuel speculation.
I agree with you. But again, the case isn't being tried for us. The case is being tried to a jury. I'm a little surprised, although I don't know how they could have found it. I'm a little surprised the judge didn't sequester them, because I think this is going to be, because it's New York, and he is New York, and it's going to be covered everywhere. So, look,
but my God, a couple of months is just brutal.
Think about a restaurant. Think about a restaurant. You go to a restaurant on a Saturday night in the middle of this trial. You think nobody else is talking
Everyone's
about Diddy at that
talking about
restaurant? I know. And so
but sequestering someone for 8 to 10
They did
weeks,
for OJ for 9 months.
That was the dumbest thing ever. They came with a verdict with their bags packed.
Right. Well, also, the trial should not have lasted 9 months.
Amen.
Come on.
Yeah.
But still, if this is, I don't know how they would have found people, because it's summer, people are going on vacation, their kids are getting out of school, they have work issues, health issues. So finding a jury that you can sequester is just so hard. But I do not see how this doesn't come off the rails to some extent.
Do you think Diddy's going to take the stand?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Really? He's such a showman.
No way.
That's his talent.
No way. The prosecutor in this case, Comey, she is Ghislaine Maxwell. The rebuttal she did in closing was devastating. She savaged her. And there is no way Diddy is going to put himself up to that. No way.
Okay, here's another.
And especially, to get him on the stand and make him squirm over the Cassie video, to get into all of these allegations, to everything. No way. No way in the world.
Yeah, him having to talk about being freaky is different than his lawyers talking about it being freaky. Yeah,
totally.
So our little rumor, big fancy lawyer, big famous lawyer, not not one who does a podcast with you, was offered.
Well, believe me, he's made the news lately.
Since you brought it up, Geragos got slammed for saying that the prosecutors are fighting a cause, not a case. And then I think just today or yesterday, this is a six-pack of white women over there on.
No, he said that in the podcast.
Oh, he said it in the podcast, right? And then
he said that on the Two Angry.
Yeah, we said it on your Two Angry Men podcast.
He said on the Two Angry Men podcast, and the prosecutors fired off a letter to the judge saying this is outrageous, and the judge called him in and said, well, you see, now this is really interesting because the judge said, because we got the transcript of this thing, and the judge said that you crossed the line. Mm-hmm. How dare you say that? It's outrageous.
As an officer of the court.
As an officer of the court. And the next time you do it, essentially the judge said, I'm probably going to hold you in contempt. So he made that really clear. On the other hand, the judge said, and Mr. Geragos, I'm going to be listening to that podcast every week. First of all, thank you, Judge. We appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
What a
plug. No kidding.
Oof.
But secondly, what's really interesting, Ashleigh, fascinating, is the judge is essentially saying that Geragos, who is clearly, and look, he is not open with me about this at all, even though I've known him forever. He's not open with me. I don't know what his exact relationship is in this case, but he's clearly advising the defense team. He's represented Diddy for years.
And Tenny, his daughter, is on the team.
And she's on the team, but he was in the peanut gallery, and they were exchanging notes, the defense and Geragos. He was in the lunchroom with them. So, again, I haven't talked to him about this because we haven't done the podcast this week. But, what's interesting is if the judge is saying, I'm going to be listening to the podcast, what he's saying is, you're not subject to the gag order.
And also, the judge, like the guy I just covered in the bail hearing, maybe shouldn't be consuming outside media. Wow.
I think now the judge is doing it professionally to see if Geragos crosses the line. Yeah. But I find this really interesting because there is a very famous case called Shepard versus Maxwell. And this was Sam Shepard, who was the doctor famously convicted of murdering his wife. And I think, and his child too, I think.
I thought it was just the wife. But...
It may have just been the wife. And he appealed based on the prosecution and the media being in cahoots and poisoning the community and the jury. And the Supreme Court bought it. And the Supreme Court said that at a point, it denies a defendant the constitutional right to a fair trial. What's interesting when you read that opinion is it seems to be a one-way street, that it could gag prosecutors, but it doesn't talk about gagging the defense because the defense is entitled to a fair trial, but what they say in the public doesn't mean the trial becomes unfair. You know, they may try to gain an advantage, but prosecutors don't have that right under the Fifth Amendment. Yeah. Only the defendant does. So, Geragos's point was that no defense lawyer could ever be gagged. And in this case, all the others have bent the knee and said, we're not going to talk. Geragos, whether he's part of it or not, is saying that's just unconstitutional.
Yeah.
It seems like the judge kind of bought it.
I know you have to go, but I need a really quick answer from you on this, and that is that a big fancy lawyer told me he was offered $10 million to defend Diddy, and just for all sorts of other reasons he couldn't. What do you think it's going to cost Diddy, this defense?
The amount that you just mentioned?
Well, yeah, because that was just for one lawyer, right?
Yeah, that one lawyer asked for way more than $10 million.
Oh, really?
Way more.
Huh.
Way
so what do you think?
More.
What do you think the Diddy team defense is going to cost? His dream team.
We were talking about that today. I mean, these are high-priced lawyers, and we were there are 8 of them, and we were saying that during the trial, it seems to me it's $100,000 a day.
Man,
I mean, that adds up.
I think it's more than $100,000 a day, honestly.
It probably is, but at least $100,000 a day.
And the terabytes of data that they've got to go through in these last 8 months. But I can't even believe it's only been 8 months. I know you've got to go. I adore you. I could talk to you for 1,000 hours and still not finish. So
I love talking to you.
We have to do this again.
By the way, we're going to do this again on our Tubi special, which we're going to be doing every week. And it'll be free on Tubi. The first one is going to drop tomorrow night. And it's going to be really.
I'm excited. I'm excited to do it. I can't wait.
We're gonna get some inside scoop on stuff.
I can't wait. Thank you for this, Harvey.
I love you, Ashleigh.
Love you
it's my
more.
pleasure, always.
My great thanks to Harvey Levin for that conversation. He is such a busy guy. It's super hard to pin him down for 5 minutes, let alone this long, plus half-hour conversation that I had with Harvey. Super excited about doing a Tubi show, actually, with Harvey Levin on Thursday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It will be on the Diddy Trial. I'm going to join a panel of experts with Harvey to talk about the developments every week. In the meantime, I'm just so thrilled that you've been here, and I'm so appreciative that you either listen or watch the Drop Dead Serious podcast. I always ask that if you like it, say something in the comments, leave a review. That's really, really helpful. Share the episode with a friend. That makes a huge difference. But I just love hearing from you as well. Don't forget to subscribe, though, as well, so you don't miss any new episodes, especially those bonus episodes that I tend to drop, when I'm feeling freaky. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. And remember, the truth isn't just serious, it's drop dead serious.